Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Nan Morrison. I'm the President and CEO of the Council for Economic Education, and I'm so delighted to be with this enormous crowd of people on a beautiful, chilly, but beautiful Boston morning. CE's program, Invest in Girls, which we're celebrating today, is a vital component in our overarching mission to bring economic and personal finance education to our kids, grades K through 12. This program lies at the core of our direct engagement with members of our communities, particularly those at a disadvantage in accessing this knowledge and experience, and young women are certainly among them. Study after study demonstrates the critical importance of personal finance and economic knowledge to future well-being, and yet it's largely assumed that kids can just pick up this knowledge as they go. They don't. No one just picks it up. All of our kids need to understand how to survive and thrive on the fundamental levels of managing credit, debt, and money in order to reap the benefits of that knowledge in freedom, security, and options. If young people can't read and interpret the ecosystem of finance and money, if they have no roadmap, they're severely impaired in navigating toward a better life. CEE does everything possible to get these subjects into our classrooms. We create highly respected educational resources, we provide teachers with professional development, and we advocate unceasingly for state educational support throughout our country, an effort that's making significant advances. We just had a bill passed in the state Senate in Pennsylvania, no small feat. But the rubber meets the road in our direct programs with kids and families, and Invest in Girls is at the forefront of these. Young women today understand that they can't wait for life to come to them. They must engage in it on their own terms and build the life they want. For this, they need a variety of tools: information, experience, guidance, and support networks. IIG provides all of that. All of our efforts are designed to bring kids together in a welcoming, accessible, friendly environment that exposes them to the possibilities inherent in gaining this knowledge. There really is no better reflection of who we are as an institution than all of the supporters gathered here today. From our students to our board members to our funders, teachers, and staff, your generosity and dedication are everything. Special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Fidelity. We lost a couple of our key people there, board members who are busy because they run government relations, but we're so thrilled to have so many of our friends from Fidelity here, the team at Wellington, an early and very long-time supporter of IIG, and of course, Brown Advisory. We range here today from sterling women leaders in the business communities to young women just beginning to draw a picture of themselves for good and fruitful lives. And I see some really young women way in the back. And we even have a few good men, and we're grateful for you too. Among the special women whom all of you will meet here today is Michelle Hicks, who serves on IIG's Truly Inspiring Advisory Committee and chairs this event. She's going to introduce our speakers in a bit. They are Valerie Mosley, the founder of Upward Wealth, who'll be interviewing Jean Hines, CEO of Wellington Management, and we thank both of them for giving generously of their time this morning. At the end of our event, you'll also hear from the founder of IIG, the always inspiring and intensely dedicated June Thorne. And by the way, her mom is here too. And we're glad to have her. She's wonderful. And of course, you're gonna get to meet some of our students. But right now, I'd like to bring up Tiffany Zipperman, who's the Senior Director of our IIG program. We are so pleased to have added her to our team just several months ago. She is a seasoned professional in education and highly intuitive, empathetic leader. She's pulled together a great team and bringing a great organizational drive to scale up this program nationwide and bring deserved attention to its effectiveness. I'd say she's a tsunami of resolve to move IIG ahead, but our team seems to have a lot of problems with tsunamis and hurricanes. We keep getting team members caught in them and not able to arrive. In any event, Tiffany, please join me, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Nan, for that kind introduction. I am incredibly thankful to be a part of this CEE team. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here with us. This is my first Boston breakfast. I'm really excited to be here. I want to begin by thanking our wonderful Invest in Girls Program Advisory Committee, especially Matt Conroy. Where are you, Matt? There you are. Christina Chi, our other chair who's not here today, and our wonderful June Thorne for their unwavering support and for welcoming me to this team this year. We are very grateful to receive a donation from the Papa John's Foundation this year. Donations like theirs allow us to expand our reach and deliver this important education to students across the country. We want to share a video they made that highlights our mission in action.
The Papa John's Foundation Building Community Fund is a program that allows for franchisees to provide grants to the local community organizations that are doing phenomenal work in the franchise communities. And we know how important this type of funding is and how far these organizations can make it go.
The mission of Invest in Girls is twofold. Mission number one is to create the first generation of financially literate high school girls. And mission number two is to encourage more of them to pursue careers in finance.
We are a team who is heavily minority, female. We're very focused on not just diversity, because we view diversity as a fact, but the action of inclusion and the end goal of equity.
You know, in an era in which we're talking about changing the world, there's still statistics that show that there's more CEOs named John than there are women in Fortune 500 companies. And if it's not more women in the room, then this is a problem that's going to become intractable or seem intractable, but it's not.
We could not deliver our program without donations from places like the Papa John's Foundation. They go directly to programming. We have very little overhead. We are a small team. We're a scrappy team. Invest in Girls is for all students who identify as female. What we're trying to do here is expand access.
Not every girl that joins our program wants a finance career, and that's okay. But what our goal is to expose as many of them to those opportunities that they've never even heard about it.
We always talk about a study done by the Girl Scouts of America that only 12% of girls feel confident in their ability to plan and understand personal finances. In 25 states, there's no requirement when students graduate from high school that they have taken a personal finance or economics course. So Invest in Girls offers a variety of workshops. Half are on the personal finance side and the other half are focused on what we call career exploration.
The students love the program so much so up until yesterday, a young lady came down to my office and said, Miss Agard, when is the next session? The young ladies raved about the program. They were on time. They did not leave on time. I could tell that it was making an impact and it was something that they were interested in, that they were actually learning.
Financial literacy is important in general because money's everywhere. You can't really function without money. It was an amazing feeling to finally understand, I kind of understood it, but now I fully understand and I think I can explain it myself.
Parents aren't talking to their kids at home, explaining them how to write checks and, do the basic things that you need to do when you become an adult. Invest in Girls was great. It was a way to interact with other people, with instructors, and learn about a really important field.
A lot of programs come to your school and it's just kind of like one and done, right? Invest in Girls is actually interested in investing in our girls.
I love how clear the video makes it that our mission and work are well recognized and regarded by organizations looking to make an impact. These organizations and individuals, many of whom are here this morning, have helped us build our momentum. Over the course of the last year, we have been able to double our person power, adding 4 new positions to our program team. I would be remiss at this point if I did not pause and thank our extraordinary team. Team, will you stand up, please? As you know, the IIG program is comprised of two main components, financial foundations and career access. Career access is the true special sauce of IIG, connecting girls to careers through experiential learning and mentorship. We are proud to say that in the spring, we launched our first in-person cohort of Exploring Finance, hosted by our friends at Citi. Our students shared incredible feedback from the 4-day intensive session during spring break. They ended the week with tangible connections to some fantastic women in the industry, as well as a clear understanding of what a career path in finance may look like for them. This year, we have more than 1,400 students participating in our program. We have expanded to 7 new states, crushing our original goal of 3. In addition, we grew mentorship participation by more than 50%, with 63 girls getting a personalized deep dive into a profession in finance this school year. As we look ahead to the future, both near and far, we continue to build and evolve our program and infrastructure to further our growth. We are keeping our curriculum and program package relevant and forward-thinking, not to mention looking great with our new branding. We are creating a scalable product that is easy to use for our partners and national network of affiliates. So many of you in this room have helped us come to this point. You have come alongside us and shared your knowledge and expertise to make the curriculum accurate. You have shouted about our program to the rooftops and helped us get a foothold in schools. You have volunteered in our workshops and connected directly with our students to show them how valuable they are to the future of finance. You have given your time, your talents, and your treasure to help us build a program that meets a distinct need for young women today. We have robust interest, powerful momentum, and the right people and partners in place to bring a program to thousands more girls in the coming year. Nothing validates the impact of our program better than hearing directly from our students and volunteers. I'm honored to introduce to you one of our most engaged students, Julia Torrey, and her mentor, Nell Kelleher. You will also hear from Shania Valius, who will share her experience as an IIG student. Julia and Nell.
Hi, my name is Julia Torrey, and I'm a senior at Milton Academy from Hingham, Massachusetts. I've been participating in the Investing Girls program at my school and beyond since my freshman year, so I'm incredibly passionate about the organization, and I'm so excited and honored to be speaking here with you all today.
Good morning, my name is Nell Kelleher, and I work at Brown Advisory. I got involved in the Investing Girls program for 2 reasons. First, I come from a community of strong women. I have 2 older sisters who work in finance, and I went to an all-girls school for 9 years. The second reason is those communities helped me get to where I am today. I had help when I was thinking about what I wanted to do after college. I had help from so many women who helped me understand what are all the different roles in finance. It's really hard to know what people do every day if you're not in it. So I had women help answer questions like, what does an investment banker do? What does a trader do? And through those conversations, I was able to actually find people and roles that I really like, and I hope to give a window into that world, both to Julia, but to other people in the program. So Julia, I'd love to hear from you. Why did you get involved in Investing Girls?
Yeah, so as I said, I've been participating in my school's chapter of Investing Girls since my freshman year. I've been on the board since freshman year, and I've been a co-head since my junior year, which was last year. And since the first day that I joined, I've felt a sense of community. My Investing Girls Club at Milton has been where I've always found some of my greatest female role models within my school and beyond, from the speaker series we've participated in. And I also participated in the Investing Girls Summer Fellowship this summer, where I had the honor of speaking with Nell for the second time. She also spoke with our Milton Club my freshman year. And I just had the most amazing time, and I left feeling so empowered and represented as a woman in the finance world. I've just always gained so much knowledge and confidence from Investing Girls and the incredible women like Nell I've encountered because of the program. And I joined the mentorship because I wanted to continue to have this personal one-on-one connection with a woman in finance and feel empowered through economic education. I wanted a mentor to help me navigate the college process, craft my resume, learn how to network, and look to pursue a career in the finance world in the future. Nell, tell me about your experience so far with the mentorship, what we've done, and all of that.
Great. So the school year has only just begun, so we've only just started working together. But the first week that we met was the week that Julia was applying to college. So first, it was a good refresher to me of what does the college process look like today, because it was slightly different than when I applied to schools. And second, we made the connection that Julia is applying early to Dartmouth, where I went to business school. So we had that connection in common, which really helped. And then we started talking about networking. How can you get started networking when you're in high school? How can LinkedIn be helpful, and how can you build a presence and use LinkedIn as a tool to really help network? So we're excited to work together and see what the year brings. So we wanted to close with a piece of advice to each other, given that we're in slightly different life stages. So my advice to Julia is for her senior year. Be nice to everyone and make connections, because you never know who you're going to run into at a 10-year reunion on LinkedIn or just walking around Boston who could be helpful to you in your career.
And I decided to give Nell my parenting advice because she has a 1-year-old named Henry. And my advice on parenting is to raise Henry, as we raise Henry, is to instill good morals and good values early on, so you can kind of let him go, parent with trust, and just let him let him be independent and navigate the world with confidence while knowing you raised him well, and he'll always come back to visit, maybe.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Shania Values. I am a senior at Boston International High School. I have participated in Investing Girls since I was in 9th grade. I have taken financial literacy classes, Be the CFO of Your Life, and something that I've learned from those workshops is how to manage a saving account and checking accounts, and the difference between those accounts. We also talk about how credit cards and credit scores work. I learned that when you have a good credit, it can help you to buy a house, and that is something that I want to do one day. I was truly impacted by the Investing Girls program because I had no clue about anything, but now I myself have a debit card from Citizen Bank that I manage. Thanks to Citizens for teaching us about the different types of accounts that I can have as a student and a minor. Now I can share the knowledge I have with others, and I even help my sister to keep track of her credit cards. I have also participated in Exploring Finance, which taught me the different career paths in finance and networking amongst my peers, and Women in Finance. I enjoy creating my elevator speech and practicing my interviewing skills. The interviewing skills I learned helped me to interview with John Hancock, and I was accepted as an MLK Scholar this past summer. Thank you. My dream one day is to become an accountant and own my own business. Investing Girls inspired this career by inviting women in finance to speak to us about their roles and responsibilities. My next step is to join the Investing Girl mentorship programs while I am in college to stay connected to women in finance because I desire to work as an accountant. I am grateful for Investing Girls, and I want to say thank you to the Investing Girl program for investing in my future, and you made me more confident and knowledgeable about finance and the opportunity that this industry provides. I want to say thank you once again.
Good morning, everybody. It's an honor to introduce two incredibly talented and accomplished women this morning who are going to be joining us for a fireside chat. I had both of their bios. I had to cut them down by about half for each of them. That's how accomplished they are. So first, I'll start with Valerie. Valerie Mosley is the founder of Upward Wealth, a fintech platform that democratizes the creation of personal and financial wealth. Prior to starting Upward Wealth, Valerie was a partner at Wellington Management, where she managed billions for clients, chaired the firm's industry strategy group, and served on several investment strategy groups over her 20-year tenure. Valerie serves on a number of corporate boards as well as the board of New Profit, a social venture capital firm. And she's also been recognized by many organizations, I couldn't list all of them, including the 50 most powerful women in business and the top 75 African Americans on Wall Street by Black Enterprise magazines. Valerie believes to whom much is given, much is required, and speaks about the parallels between managing money and managing life, which led her to create financial fluency courses for high school teachers and students, which is, of course, right up our alley here at Investing Girls. Now, Jean. Jean is the CEO for Wellington Management, one of the largest independent investment management firms with over $1 trillion in assets. Jean joined Wellington Management right out of undergrad, rising through the ranks over the course of her 30-year tenure before being named CEO in 2021. She is one of the firm's 3 managing partners who govern the Wellington Management Partnership. If that wasn't enough, Jean is also a portfolio manager on Wellington's healthcare team, which manages more than $67 billion, including the Vanguard Healthcare Fund, which is one of the world's largest dedicated healthcare funds. Outside of her day job, which would seem to take up 24 hours of anyone else's day, Jean is a member of the investment committees at Wellesley College, Notre Dame's Wall Street Leadership Council, the Business Council, and serves on the board of directors for the Massachusetts Competitive Partnership. So please join me in welcoming Valerie and Jean for our conversations this morning. Thank you.
Good morning. How is everyone today? I'm so excited to be here with Jean. If you don't know, we are in the presence of royalty. No. Investment management royalty, for sure. I was in Utah yesterday, and I was sharing with the team that I needed to come back because I wanted to be here. I left early, so I made sure that I would be here. And I told them what I was doing. They said, "What? Jean Hines? Oh my gosh, I've never met her, but arguably she is the best investor in healthcare and pharmaceuticals around." And this is someone who was on Wall Street for a long time, and he just knew of you, so your reputation precedes you.
Thank you, Val.
And I'm really excited for the string of conversations. So let's begin with what everyone here is probably wondering. Who is Jean Hines?
Well, I'm definitely not a queen. If I go back, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and where I grew up, and because I do think it's who I am, and like I don't view myself as a queen in any sense of the word. I'm really proud of all I've accomplished, and I've been just so lucky in life, lucky in life to have a wonderful husband, to be at a company for 30 years. That's amazing. To work with wonderful colleagues, and just to be given the privilege to lead. So that's who I am, but I'll start off.
Let's start off with the beginning.
At the beginning. So I grew up in Milton, Massachusetts. My parents are Irish immigrants. My father was a bricklayer. My mother raised 6 children. She in particular was, when I talk about my parents and what I learned from them, my father he didn't go to school beyond the age of 13, even though he had tons of aptitude. But he was a lifelong learner. He would be reading National Geographic was what he read all the time. And we were a household with one TV, and he would be watching PBS at night when we were teenagers. Not something that we really enjoyed as teenagers. But like when I think about my father, always, always, always learning, and he just knew so much. My mother, I think my mother, when I think about her, when I think about leadership, she raised 6 children, all different. She treated us individually. She never treated us as a unit. And she really pushed us each to our limits. When I think about leadership now, when I think about getting to know each individual and how you inspire and motivate them, I think I learned that from my mother. But we grew up with very modest means. My mother in particular was very focused on education. I can say, we never went to Disney World because it was all about education.
And that's interesting. Yeah. When you said that your father didn't finish, which grade was that?
It's interesting, the nuns in Ireland went to his parents and said he should go to a special school because he had a lot of aptitude. Oh. And his parents took him out of school the next day because I think he was going to inherit the farm, and both of them grew up on farms.
Fascinating. I love that. I love that humble background. I was an investor and I was with Wellington. You meet a lot of leaders. Not everyone comes with this sort of humility, and I just want you to recognize that from where you began. And then you chose to go to Wellesley.
Yes.
And what drove that choice? And while there, were you one of the, let's start with that.
Yeah, so I went to Wellesley College. I was really lucky to be able to go to Wellesley on the backs of the alumna, because I did get almost a full scholarship. I'm the second. You have to understand, I'm the second of, there's 3 girls and then 3 boys in my family. I actually do think the birth order mattered, that my mother really pushed the girls. I often wonder if we had a different birth order, what would have happened. But I got full scholarships. I would not have had to pay anything at some colleges, but we had to pay, I think at the time, like $3,000 for me to go to Wellesley, and my parents did pay it, which was a lot of their income at the time, a big chunk of their income, and I think they knew that it would open doors for me. And so I went to Wellesley, embarked on Wellesley. I actually just randomly joined a friend who was going to look at Wellesley my senior year. I remember going onto campus. I'm not sure who's been to the Wellesley campus, but you just sort of fall in love immediately. And it was a really, really good fit for me. And I ultimately found economics.
Oh, this is great. And this reminds me of my story in many ways. Like, my mother didn't finish high school, and my father went to college and didn't finish. And he would say, like, go to the best school that you can.
Yeah.
And so I never knew this part of your story, which is great. So you majored in economics. Invest in Girls, when you go to their website, it says that 12% of girls, and earlier they referenced the stat, only 12% are confident. Were you always confident in your abilities around money and finance, or was that something?
Well, I started off, you have to imagine, coming from an immigrant family, my mother wanted me to do something that I could get a job. And so she steered me at Wellesley into computer science because it, potentially you could have a job connected to it. She had never heard of economics. I did not do well. It's the only C I got in my whole life. Computer science and I did not match. But then second semester of sophomore year, I had my first economics class. And I'll tell you, I loved it. And my professor wrote me a letter in the summer and said, you should pursue economics. Back to being inspired or motivated, like the fact that he took time out to write me a letter over the summer and said, you should keep going. You're good at this.
That's incredible. So let's pause there. What advice would you give to your high school or college self?
I think both to my high school and college, I would say high school, just keep learning and trying things, and really, I guess my high school, I would say, I probably didn't have as much confidence as I did when I went to college in my abilities. So, really, if you're really good at something, pursue it.
And that path from not having much confidence to having more is a really important one, because, as many of you know, the stats will share that women disproportionately have very low self-worth.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone who might not be very confident?
I think it's just trying new things one at a time, building those experiences one at a time. And if you don't do well, try it again. So you're not going to get A's on everything. I certainly didn't get A's on everything, but I kept trying.
That's great. Okay, take us to your career. You leave Wellesley and you start off Wellington as an EA, as a secretary. Her career path is just amazing, from secretary to CEO all along the way. So can you walk us through that path? And I've heard you talk before about the various decades. So bring us to when you started and what you had in your mind around how you might advance.
So the reason I got into finance is that in my junior year of college, Wellesley at the time had one of the most famous classes was a sociology and work that everyone. So I got into the class, and you actually had to find a job, and I looked at all different industries, and I ended up working for a stockbroker as part of that class. So that's how I discovered the finance part of the business. I worked there that summer as well. I was super interested in why stocks went up and down. Like, why did they move?
I was not interested in the cold calling, the client part of it. So just having that knowledge, I didn't know anything else about the finance industry, but that's how I found my way to Wellington. So I could say, I want to learn why stocks go up and down. And then it was between two jobs, one job with a title and the other job being an administrative assistant working in the research department, which I still am in. We have our director of research here, Mary Prishlak. But I knew I was going to be doing research assistant work as well as administrative work. But the headhunter is like, you have to go to this company. This company is special. Don't worry about the title. There's going to be a lot of momentum and movement. And so I did. She was very convincing.
That's
I
great.
often wish I could find her and thank her.
And thank her. That's great. And that's a great lesson for many of you.
Yeah.
I just want to double click on something that she said. It's not about the title. It's about your understanding of what path you're going to take. And sometimes people get too wrapped up in the title. And I believe that the wealth management, the investment management area is so perfect for women.
Yeah.
It's really well designed. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And if so, why?
Because I think it is very if you do well, it's measurable. So it is.
Yes.
I would encourage. Well, first of all, it's amazing field, right? I've got to learn every day from CEOs and scientists. My background, we go back into my decades. My first decade was really becoming a biotech and pharmaceutical analyst, and getting to interact with people. If I go back to the 1990s, I interact with people that really changed people's lives 30 years later, and that the fact that we were part of that, and we funded companies that really impacted breast cancer and rheumatoid arthritis. That part of it has been amazing.
It really has. And then you had some people along the way who believed in you.
Yes. So 18 months into working at Wellington, I started working with this man named Ed Owens, who I worked for 20 years. He had started the Vanguard Healthcare Fund, managing the Vanguard Healthcare Fund. And when I started working with him, he was probably in his mid-40s, and he was starting other products, and he was also the analyst. And they wanted to hire someone to work with him. And luckily for me, he was not a big person that liked change. And so he's like, what about, and I was a very good writer. I thank Wellesley for that. Wellesley makes everyone take a writing course. And so that's actually what got me recognized, that I was a really good writer. And so Ed said, well, how about Jean works for me? And so that's how it started. And from day one, I wrote the morning meeting notes for a year every day. I learned so much in that year. I went to every biotech and pharmaceutical meeting with Ed. We were launching what became an international research equity product. I did the trade. So early in my career, I had a lot of hands in, how do you put trades in? How do you how do you interview managements?
That's great training.
Yeah.
Again, takeaway, when you're young, make sure that you attach yourself or make yourself available to people who are really good and put in the work.
Yeah.
And I would say, did you know that you were a good writer at the time?
I think, I
did
knew
know
I
that.
was a good
Okay.
writer. Yeah, I had a lot of confidence in my writing.
That's great. And so what advice would you give to your younger self in careers and to the many women around here?
So I don't want to say there were definitely, so when we talk about the road from being an administrative assistant to that decade, I became a partner at the end of that decade. But I want to be 100% honest. There were times I'm like, I don't like this title. I'm a college-educated Wellesley woman. But I would say.
You didn't like which title, the EA title?
I mean, meaning that I don't want to say I wanted to progress.
Right.
And do what I want. So, I'm a proud starting as an administrative assistant, but I also want to remember those feelings of why, right? I want to progress and do more of this part of the work. I used to. You young women will not remember this, but you will never have to deal with this in your life. But there used to be piles of mail twice a day that I would, and Ed Owens says that Jean opened mail faster than anyone else because I was really getting through the mail so that I could work on a biotech company. And so I think I worked really hard and took every opportunity to progress because I loved it too. I loved it.
That's great. And so the reason I think that women are really well suited for this industry is because let me apologize in advance. It's like shopping every day.
Yeah.
Because you're saying, is this cheap or is this rich?
Yeah.
Or if you're going to buy toilet paper, should I pay more for Charmin's than something else? And so I feel, and if you go to TJ Maxx or off Fifth, you're seeing this is a deal. And so I found it fun just being able to find value. The other thing, you said something which really resonated with me, is that in the investment management industry, you can go to the tape. How did you do? How did you perform? So as an African-American woman, I really wanted to be in a space where it wasn't, it was black or white. Literally, there's no, go to the tape. Did I outperform or did I not? And I love that, so thank you for that.
Yeah, there's probably not many professions in the world where you're measured every day.
Every day.
And so.
Yeah, it's great.
You have to have a lot of resilience.
You do. So people now will look at you and see all of your successes. Can you talk a little bit, have you had any failures or disappointments, and how have you rebounded?
Yeah, so I would say, back to my first decade, lots of learning along the way. I started managing money. We do it now at Wellington in a much more deliberate fashion, where we train people, we give them in incubation portfolios. But I sort of was thrown into running money, I think in 1997. My first year was horrific. Like really, really not very good. And so, but then I learned.
Like how not good?
It was not very good at all. But over like the tenure of running those portfolios, my inception to date numbers were really quite good. And so I did overcome it. But I remember having to overcome a big deficit and really then focused on portfolio construction. Why was I putting these together? Having help from my mentors. So there's many things in the investment business. You have to, do you have good insights? Are you going to predict medicine and where it's going to be? But you also have to put the stocks and portfolios the right way. And so there was a learning curve for me there. So that would probably be number one. Then I became what we now have called a managing director and a partner. Became a partner around the age of 30, 31. But I would. But I was still not formed, right? Fully formed. And so I would say I'll tell you a story about Ed. He was a wonderful mentor. I moved to London. I moved my family to London as we began to globalize Wellington's investment platform. The best thing that I ever did in my career. But what that did is like separate Ed and I. Like Ed and I were, we were like this.
Yes.
Like we were a team. And I think from a distance he could see me maybe becoming more stubborn. Like the worst possible characteristic for an investor is to be stubborn and not change your mind. Like it's this borderline of being confident while not being stubborn. I think he could see me being a little stubborn. So we were on a train in England going to visit a company, and he gave me like very direct, uncomfortable feedback. And I can remember his face. And it was hard for him to do. It was not in his nature to give feedback like that. And so, but I thank him every day for that. Because I think it took a year for me to absorb it. So I wouldn't say it was like, but I did not have a good 08. Like 08 was a really difficult time, but I didn't have a good 08 investment period. That was after that. So I think I learned a lot of lessons. Like I really absorbed that information about, it wasn't about me being right. It was about like me adapting and pivoting if the information changed. So that I think was a big lesson for me.
And this is really important, because if you have those down years, in those moments, it's easy to feel less than and to give up. But you don't. You stick with it. And that's a point that you made earlier. You stick with it, because if I see these parallels, as you know, between managing money and managing life. And you may have these great drawdowns, but your biggest returns typically come after great drawdowns. So you've got to stay in. If you walk away, you'll miss that upside. And you identified two that didn't go so well.
Yeah.
That's important. So let's pivot a little bit to family life.
Yep.
Not only are you CEO and she's done all these wonderful things, but she has 4 daughters from ages 19 through 23, 2 twins. Excuse me, a set of twins, and she's managing Wellington, which is amazing. And so I'd like to talk to you. One thing that I really admired when I met your husband was how courageous you collectively were in making the decision that he would stay at home and you would continue to work. And so can you talk a little bit about that choice and the advice that you might give to women? Because Wharton now has predominantly, has a majority women in their class, which is pretty amazing. And the science says that in the major cities, millennial women are out earning men. And that's an amazing dynamic. So how did you guys navigate that with egos and roles?
So my husband Mark and I have been married 27 years. We met, he went to MIT, so we were an MIT and Wellesley couple. We met when we were in college. And I would say we had 4 kids before he stopped working. So like when I think back to those early years, I think you're right. It was a real partnership. Like I would go to work really early and I would leave at 4:30. He would go to work a little bit late and he would come home a little bit later. So we really kind of made it work. You know, I had one child and then we had another and then we found out we were having twins like halfway through. And so we had 3 young children under the age of 19 months. And wow, that was a period.
Yes, that was a period.
But you know, I made partner the next year, so I think we just surrounded ourselves with the community, like our parents, and we had, you know, and I learned this from Val and other women partners who had kids that were older than us. There was a group of us that started the first, actually, business network at Wellington was sort of the mothers group. That, you know, if you can imagine, back then, they didn't want us to have those meetings on Wellington conference rooms, because it was, you know, but we did, you know, things have changed so much. So much.
It's so true.
But I did learn from all of the women the amazing women at Wellington ahead of me, I learned something from all of them, like, you know, make sure dinner is really important. So we have, like, even now, dinner is really important for the girls and us. I don't iron clothes. Like, I just, like, I don't buy clothes that have to be ironed. I just let it all go. Like, things that didn't need to happen, I think I learned. Make sure that you have extremely loving people that are in your family, your daycare providers. Like, we had people that are still part of our lives. And if you don't have that, then make changes. We've had to make some changes over time and be courageous about that.
That's
so
great.
And then there came a point where Mark was traveling we had a period of time where he was traveling Sunday night, he'd come back Saturday, all over the world, and it was hard. It was really, really hard. And after Eve was born, who's my youngest, he took a sabbatical and then decided to stay home. And then I would say that there was like some fits and starts because it was really hard for him to be a stay-at-home dad. There weren't that many. I think there are more now.
Right.
But I think he's had a very happy, and he has amazing relationship with the girls, like an amazing relationship.
That's great. We're going to take questions from the audience, so think about them in advance. So the advice that you would give to mothers and working mothers.
My biggest advice is, and I'll tell this story, like when my daughters, I remember the twins being in the back of my car and it was right when Lent was starting, and I made them, or they decided to give up magic markers. And anyone who has young kids knows that the magic marker stage is not the funnest stage for parents and how you have to clean everything. And so they gave up magic markers for Lent, and then they asked me, what are you giving up for Lent? And then they said, Mom, you have to give up your job. And we all laughed about that, but I was like, they knew that I loved my job. So that would be one piece of advice, like be in a job that you love, because then your children will know it, and it's much easier to integrate work. I wouldn't call it balance all the time, but you integrate work and life. Like you said, it's all one continuum. So you have to be in a company and a job that you love. So that probably would be number one. And then I was never a guilty mother. So I have a lot of, we talk about this with friends. I think if you don't have to be at everything. Like I never went to the dentist with the kids. I brought them to every doctor's appointment. You don't have to do everything. And you know, if you're guilty, it's an extra burden on you. It's really an extra burden that makes it really hard. So find those mechanisms to reduce that guilt.
That's really good. It reminds me of once my daughter at one point was really upset that I was working. Like, Mommy, why are you working? Yeah. And I was about to go out, and she started to cry. I was going to go out with some friends. And I said, you know, relatability matters. When you go spend time with Christina, I miss you while you're gone, when you're on your play date. Like, mommy needs play dates too. And she changed her attitude so much. And when I came back, Mommy, how was your play date?
It's a great story.
It makes a difference. So we have assets and liabilities, financially and personal. And habits and mindsets are real assets. So when you think about everything that you do, how in the world do you do it all? What are some of the assets that you have, mindset-wise and or habit-wise? And what are the liabilities that you've let go of?
So I'm a big believer in knowing your strengths and everyone has strengths and everyone has some super strengths. So I lean into those super strengths. So like being really I'm really organized. I'm very deliberate and organized. I think that helps me manage my time really well. So that probably would be number one.
And before you go to number two, can you give examples that people might be able to take away? How are you?
So okay. I sleep 8 hours a night. That's probably number two, but that probably should have been number one. So I do have this, I am a huge believer in sleep, and so that means in my waking hours, I do think I get more done because I have invested in sleep. And we can go into the science of sleep probably for an hour.
Yes, it's great.
So that helps me be more organized, and even like exercise. Like I say, if I don't exercise 5 times a week, by Saturday I have to do two sessions. Like, so just being really, really deliberate about, it doesn't have to be every day, but for me that makes it, that just keeps me on track. So that would be another session. What I give up, like I don't watch that much TV. It's just something I've chosen to give up, and I hear about all these great shows, and someday I'll watch them all when I go into the sunset from Wellington. But so there are things. So I prioritize my family number one, my friends, spending time. Like I'd much rather spend time with family and friends than watch TV.
That's great. So when you think about how you organize your day,
Yeah.
First of all, I just want to pause for a second. Think about that. She has everything that she has going on. She doesn't give up her sleep, and she doesn't give up her exercise.
I slept 9 hours last night, by the way.
That is
tired.
amazing. When many people who are busy and you think you have to do it all, you give up your sleep and you don't exercise. I love that. So walk us through, like, how do you organize your day? Again, for outside of those hours.
So I would say every time I've taken on new responsibilities, that would be another thing. You need to adapt and adjust. And so when I took on the managing partner role in 2014, and I was managing I was managing 9 healthcare strategies, I had to really adapt and adjust how I did those 2 responsibilities. And they're more similar. Being an investor and being a managing partner is more similar. When I've taken on the CEO role and I'm still managing one portfolio, I found I needed to really change my schedule. So 3 or 4 months in, I'm like, oh, this is not working. And so then you just have to take a step back and adapt. And so like I need much more concentrated time on healthcare versus putting it into the day here and there. So I really adapted my schedule. And then I adapted after year 1. So year 1, and that was probably the right thing to do. I had a lot of meetings. And at year 2, I have office hours, and I leave a lot more time open for things that happen during the week. So I was really overscheduled, and that was probably okay because it was the first year and learning a lot more about the business. So I think just being very, like, taking a step back all the time and saying, how do I do this a little bit better? And what is 23 going to look like? Well, what's my travel schedule going to look like? How do I make it more, how do I adjust it for sort of the new realities all the time?
When I hear you talk, it reminds me of the fact that you are prioritizing you and your well-being and what you do, but outsiders seeing everything that you do might think that you have to give up what keeps the best in you alive. And I really, really love that.
Well, if I didn't sleep and exercise and spend time with my family, I probably wouldn't be happy, and Then if I wasn't happy, I probably couldn't really serve Wellington like it wouldn't be fair, right?
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like putting on your oxygen mask
Yeah.
first before you help someone else. Remember that? Remember that? I'm checking. We covered several items. How are we doing on time? Okay. We're going to go to Q&A. Let me just do a fire round session. Do you like coffee or tea?
Diet Coke.
Okay. Dogs or cats?
Neither.
Okay. We're on a roll here. Beach or mountains?
Oh, both.
Contrarian here. I love it. Favorite season?
Summer.
Okay. 1 year from now, will equity markets be higher or lower?
I hope higher.
Will the economy be growing or slowing?
Slowing, but maybe bottoming.
Okay. And finally, what is the most important advice you would tell your younger self and girls around the world?
I think the most important advice would be constant, like just be learning something new every day, and take it in, and then really stretch. Learn as the more you learn, the more skills you'll have, and the more you can do for the world. So, learn every day.
Awesome. Awesome. So Q&A. Any questions? Stand up from Morgan Stanley and announce your name, please. Talk loudly for now, for speed.
Amy Steigerwald from Morgan Stanley. I'm a private wealth advisor. Thank you, ladies, both for enlightening us this morning. It's amazing to see two very badass women at this early in the morning. So my question is for Jean. I'd love to hear from you. You know, from my perspective, it takes two very different skill sets and personality traits to transition from research investor to a leader. Can you touch on, one, what you think really overlap between the two, and then two, what you had to really work on as you transitioned to the CEO?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I often say I began my leadership journey in London back in 2007 and 2008. And part of it was like being separated from Ed. I had the privilege of working with one of our portfolio managers. His wife was a personal coach, a professional coach. And so she sat down with me as I was becoming independent. So that was the first part of like really understanding who I was. So I don't think you can actually be a leader unless you understand who you are. So I would encourage you all. There's like the Gallup Strength Finders, like so I really understood who I was and what motivated me. I think that made me, and then I studied and really tried to understand what motivated my teammates. And so that really, I think, helped me demonstrate trust. Like when I understood myself and what motivated me, it allowed me to give up some things that helped motivate my teammates. And I think that put me in a position then to be the team leader of healthcare in 2013. And that was like running a little business within Wellington. And so that, I think, was really, really important. Part of my journey. I've spent a lot of time on reading and on coaches. So I'll tell you a story. In 2015, I became managing partner, and one of the previous director of research, Mark Mandel, said, "Oh, you should work with my coach." I remember meeting her. I'm really liking her when I interviewed. She interviewed me for his executive coaching, and so I started working with her. I worked with her for about a year. At the beginning, she's like, "Do you want to be CEO someday?" I said, "No." I said, "No." I thought I had the best of all worlds because I really was missing sort of the people part, the people aspect of it. And then towards the end of the year, I said, well, maybe I might want to be CEO someday. I had been working then with Brendan, who was our CEO for like 18 months, and so the things that I recognized in that year was, some of the overlapping skills were very similar, like making decisions with a lot of ambiguity. There was no black and white. There was tons and tons of gray. Actually having to make decisions, like that, it was a skill that I learned from being an investor. You actually have to make decisions. You have to get tons and tons of input and tons of perspectives, but at some point you have to move forward. You can't, if you don't do that, you'll never move forward and move the organization forward. So I think those are some of the things those skills really, really overlapped with being an investor.
That's great. Other questions? I know you have some questions.
There's someone over there. Couple.
Hi, lady. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's
Seems
okay.
loud. Hi, ladies. I'm Jackie. I'm asking a question from Eventide. Jean, I was wondering what would be your one piece of advice in terms of people strategy on how to create an organization that supports and empowers women?
Yeah. So, we've alluded to a little bit. Even our wonderful Wellington organization that we grew up with that empowered us. I mean, it's been a journey, even at Wellington. I think we're making a lot of progress on empowering not just women, but diversity of all kinds. And so I start from the very top. Like, what are we trying to do for our clients? What we're trying to do for our clients is predict the world. Like, we're trying to predict the future. And I think there's lots of data that shows that different perspectives, multiple perspectives, diverse perspectives, leads to better innovation and better insights. And so, it's so clear that we need that diversity of perspectives. And so how do you go about doing it? I think you have to be really deliberate. So I think you have to have aspirations. And so for us at Wellington, that's the goal. We believe we need to have diversity of perspectives to deliver for our clients. And then how do we do that? We do it at the early career. There's a man named Ken Frazier who was the CEO and chairman of Merck. He's one of the people that helped me as I took on this role. And one of the things he just implored me, he's like, Jean, we need humanity represented in our companies. Mm-hmm. And so I actually found that to be an incredibly constructive way to think about the mission and the aspirations. Mm-hmm. And so in our early career, we have humanity represented. 70-75% are either women or diverse, and that represents humanity. And then as we combine that then with how do we attract? We should be the best place in the world to attract female talent. And if we're going to have a broad partnership, we need them to be investors, we need them to be portfolio managers, we need them to be team leaders, we need them to be CFOs. Our incoming CFO, Erin, is, So I think you just need to, I think you need to do that, and then along the way you need to stretch people, you need to coach them. We do a lot of development along the way to help all of our employees, but really also diverse employees who still need that confidence boost.
Yes, that confidence boost is so important, which is why I thought about it. Like, are there moments when you really doubt it and still did?
Did I doubt?
Did you doubt? Did you ever suffer from imposter syndrome? And if so?
Yeah, I would say I was never a guilty mom, and I don't suffer from imposter syndrome because I just always loved learning and doing. So It was not about. It was really about doing well. It wasn't about becoming CEO or becoming a managing partner. It was more about what can I do? Where can my skills be used?
That's great. All right, any other questions right here? And then we're going to wrap up. We have two. We have time for one more. Oh. Loudly, yes.
We'll do two. Go ahead.
It's okay, go ahead.
So to be successful in your professional life, what key team members or roles did you need to fill in your personal life?
To be successful in your professional life.
To be successful in my professional life. So I think about the 30 years. Every period of time, I needed different players, right? So different people that helped. My mother and my mother-in-law were incredibly helpful in the first 10 or 15 years, like just letting my husband and I go away for the weekend. So we were really lucky to have a really strong family community around us. I had wonderful nannies. Like, we used to have two, because I told you I had twins, and we tended to have two at all times. So recognizing that for a period of time, that's what we needed. And then as the kids got older, we needed drivers, and then we needed, like, I have one of my person who was a nanny. She does all my Christmas shopping. It just arrived. It's all arrived on Christmas Eve. Like, I don't need to do that. So there's all, you know, and then I think just a very strong. I spent a lot of time with friends, and just having that support and all the time is really, really important.
Great. Next question?
Last question.
All right, thanks. I wanted to build on the first question that was asked, because I thought that was really great. As you think about honing your leadership skills, are there any books or podcasts or TED Talks that you would recommend, like Brené Brown or Jim Ware? Those,
yeah. So I would say I have a whole list of them. I wish I had my picture of, books that I've read. I think if I had to give you one book, and we just actually had, and I'm gonna forget her name, but it's called Multipliers. I think that stands out to me. Probably The $1 Trillion Coach was another one, but Multipliers really stood out. We had her come and speak at our offsite in June. But it really is about how you can become a multiplier. And everyone has multiplying and diminishing characteristics, and how do you really lean into the ones that multiply around you? Because you're only really as good as everyone around you. So, Liz Wiseman, yes.
Thank you.
I was going to say Sue, but that didn't sound in my mind. It was, thank you.
Join me in thanking our royalty here.
Thank you.
Down to earth, Jean Hines.
Every question seemed like, wow, that's so amazing. What a great question to end on. But anyway, thank you from me too, and I so hear you about the ironing. Haven't picked up an iron in 30 years, and my mother probably still looks down and says, that shirt, Nan. So it is now my pleasure to introduce the reason that we are all here, Dune Thorne, the founder and chair emeritus of Invest in Girls. There's one word that most describes Dune for me, and that is ardent. You can hear her commitment to women's leadership in a TED Talk that she gave. You can see it in her life and in her choices, and you can certainly see it in the young women that we heard from earlier today. She looked around at women's representation in the leadership of financial firms, at the choices that women make, and thought long and hard about what we want and the best ways to get there. She continues as she started, thoughtful and dedicated, innovative and collaborative, asking the important questions and listening for the best answers. While she's not busy thinking about Invest in Girls and developing this program and still continuing to help us, she's a partner, a member of the executive team, and chief strategy officer at Brown Advisory. I'm not going to ask her if she wants to be CEO one day. She has been recognized as one of the top 40 women in wealth as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum. I bring you Dune.
Oh, it's so wonderful to be here and see this room full of incredible supporters of financial literacy for girls. Just thank you for coming. It was an early morning, but being here matters so much. It shows that we do this together as a community. It's not one person that gets a program like this off the ground. It's a community, an ecosystem of amazing people, men and women, that together have created this program step by step. And so being here in person and together this morning, this early, to support the amazing young women in the program and the incredible team that works so hard in such a dedicated way every day matters so much. So grateful for all of you to be here. And I have to say a special thank you to Nan Morrison, who you just met, the CEO of CEE, and to Betsy Kelder, who was the CEO of Invest in Girls when the two organizations came together. And it takes vision to bring two organizations together, two companies together, two organizations together. And I look at where the program is today and the impact it's having, which is what this is all about, and it wouldn't be where it was without these two amazing women who could see the vision of this program coming together. The program of IIG and the resources and the leverage and the wisdom that CEE had to help us grow and scale and create impact. So I'm so grateful to these two amazing women that were strategic and thoughtful and collaborative and ultimately impact focused. So I want to tell one quick story about the beginning, because showing up today made me think about this. But IIG really started with a group of 10 girls who said, we want to learn more about financial literacy. They were freshmen in high school, and they asked if we'd just come teach a financial literacy class at their high school. So it started with 10 girls and a few women from the industry who built a pretty basic curriculum. And that was it, a white-walled room. We had a computer screen, and that was about it. And what really made IIG happen were 10 phone calls that I made. And I don't know where the idea really came from or where the courage came to call 10 mentors that had made a difference in my career. And I simply asked them for $1,000 to help start a program. I was terrified. I'd never done cold calls before, and I was absolutely terrified. But there was this spark in me that knew if I asked women I had deep respect and admiration for, that it would hold my feet to the fire to make sure I didn't let them down. And so I made those 10 phone calls, and every single one said yes. They said they'd contribute $1,000 to help us raise $10,000 to start the program. Every single one said yes before I really finished the sentence. It was, will you help me support financial literacy for high school girls? And the answer was yes. And I look back on that, and that was such a powerful moment. The courage they all had to say yes and believe in this vision, what it meant for me, for them to just be there no matter what, and the accountability that it provided all of us who are looking to launch this program. So a huge thank you to those 10 women. I think the one regret I had is that there should have been some men that I called. And I look back now, and there's so many wonderful men in this room supporting financial literacy for girls. And that was a mistake that I definitely made, is it's not just women that really care about supporting financial literacy for girls. It's men and women. So if I were to do it again, I would have made sure I called a couple men. But it also shows that community is what makes amazing things happen. And they formed the IIG community in the beginning. And this room right here today, and many others who are on Zoom and in other settings that weren't able to be here in Boston, this is the IIG community, and we wouldn't be creating this impact without all of you. So just thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for opening your offices. Thank you for mentoring these young girls with your incredible wisdom. Thank you for the networks that you open up for them that are life-changing for so many of these girls. And I know everyone in this room has contributed in that way. And thank you for saying yes when we call and ask for support and help, because you know we're calling and we're asking because we really care and we really want to create impact. Thank you, Valerie and Jean, for saying yes this morning and sharing your wisdom with us, because this is an example in a big way, and it's all the little ways like this that really make a difference. And thank you for your financial support. We would not be able to do our work. We would not be able to have the very best team and staff in the world doing this program if it wasn't for all of your financial support. They are lean and gritty and scrappy and do so much with the resources that we have to make sure as much as possible goes to the girls and to the program. So thank you, and thank you. We wouldn't be here without all of you. And it feels so wonderful to be part of something bigger, making an impact. So look forward to the next 5,000 girls that we get to support in the program, and I know it's going to be up, and away from there. Does anyone have an update on where we are with our goal? We are hoping to raise $250,000 this morning. Are we getting close? Does anyone have an update for me? I know this morning when we came in, we were just a little over 200. So we're really hoping to get to that goal of $250,000. There's a QR code up on your screen here. There's envelopes on the table if you want to include a check. But I'm really hoping that we can reach that $250,000 goal with everyone here in this room. So thank you for contributing. Thank you for being part of it. And I'm realizing I'm looking at Shannon over here. No one has officially thanked Shannon, who has helped us put this morning together. So we have to close with a big thank you to Shannon. So I'm sending you off on a wonderful day, and I hope you know you've all made an impact. So carry that forward and have a great day, everyone.